Global Deputy CEO and CFO, Juvencio Maeztu is no stranger to India, having spent over 6 years in the country to kickstart the global giant's retail operations. IKEA has 2 stores in India now, and more are on the anvil. While retail is the new India opportunity, IKEA continues to build on its 40-year legacy of sourcing from India. Having invested 10,500 crore rupees, IKEA is all set to reveal a fresh India investment plan.
Hello and welcome to Global Dialogues. I'm Shereen Bhan, and joining me on the program today is the Deputy CEO and CFO of IKEA, Juvencio. Thanks so much for joining us here. As opposed to a cold Davos, you're here in a very warm Delhi, but it's great to have you back on the program.
Thank you very much for having me here. And my daughter was, because they lived with me some years ago in India, and they said, how's it going being back to India? And I said to her, it's like being back home, being back to school, but also being back to the future. So I am really happy to be here.
Oh, that's a lovely way of putting it. And I want to unpack each of those things that you attributed to your experience here in India. But Juvencio, before we talk about India, let's talk about what's happening globally today. You just announced your numbers overnight, a growth of almost 6% to about 41.7 billion euros. The macroeconomic environment continues to be challenging. What's the outlook from here on?
Yeah, it is challenging. At the same time, we have decided to have a positive view of the future. That's why we are double down on our sustainability and affordability agenda. IKEA is the right place to come when the conditions are tough, like in the situation we are in, because our affordability, we have reduced prices and we will keep reducing prices going forward. And then, of course, we have worked over the last year on the full omni-channel transformation. So IKEA, people can meet IKEA in many different shapes and forms and 24/7. So it is true that they are challenged, but it is also true that there are opportunities. That's why IKEA, who has a long-term view, it is more important to double down on the deep belief. And the deep belief is about our vision to create a better life for many people, the importance of the life at home, the importance of affordability, and the importance of being climate positive.
And let's talk about affordability, because as you said, that it is a challenging environment and you're trying to do your best to protect consumers from this inflationary environment. You have brought down prices. How much is the average reduction that we've seen, and what more do you expect to be able to do? And what will that eventually mean as far as margins are concerned? How do you basically protect the business while also protecting consumers?
Yeah, I think it depends on the market, because it depends on currency, on transport, and so on. But overall, we have said we are reducing prices in all the markets where we operate. How much? I think transport cost is coming down, some raw materials is coming down, but at the same time we are building the muscle to secure better efficiency in our operation, so we can actually find also saving opportunities in the way we operate to reduce the prices, because we said that for us, reducing cost is the best driver to reduce prices. That's why, for example, our store today are having not only the function to serve as an inspiration for the people and consumers, it's also fulfillment center to optimize the whole fulfillment and distribution setup. So I think it's the times we're in help us to be much smarter in the way we operate the business. So I think it's a combination of both transport and some raw material going down, but also doing better efficiency.
How much more can you do on efficiencies? How much smarter can you be? And what is the priority going to be in terms of being able to take costs out?
Yeah. I think there is always possibility to improve. Our founder, Imber Kamprad, used to say, okay, you never give up, or keep trying. I think it's an example on for example, how can we use sustainability not as a cost, but as the new low-cost economy. For example, IKEA is famous for the flat pack. That was invented many years ago. It helped us to reduce the cost, and it helped us to be more climate friendly. The same will happen here. If I take an example, the plant-based bowl food that we are offering, it comes with the same or lower price to consumer, and it's good for the planet. If I take, for example, energy, we have decided to be climate positive, and then we are investing in renewable heating and cooling or in renewable energy. Now you can say that this is helping us to reduce the cost of the energy, because now we produce energy, and that is good for the planet, but it's good. So there's a lot of opportunities going forward.
You know, you speak about the opportunities, and especially about the big transition that you're making to be able to create a much more sustainable business. But let's talk about some of the challenges. We talked about the inflation impact on the wallet of consumers. But what are the other big risks, the geopolitical risks? I mean, today we're talking about an escalation of the conflict between Israel on the back of the terror attack by Hamas. You know, we've already got Russia and Ukraine. Geopolitics, how are you factoring that into your plans?
Yeah, it's first we have to side with the many people, and we have to recognize that many people in the world are suffering. So our heart goes with all of them, of course. Then there are big things going on. So climate change is a big one. So this clock is ticking, and then we cannot deny any longer that. Polarization of the world, both in between countries, but also within countries and between groups. Also inequalities. Both climate change and inequality and polarization are also driving inequalities. So the role we play, companies we play, is not only to do our business, it's how can we contribute to mitigate some of these risks. That's what I strongly believe a company like IKEA, with an affordability agenda to support reducing inequalities, or the way we develop equality, diversity and inclusion policies to integrate many people, or all the investment we do in climate. So it's not any longer enough to do good. It's also to do well. It's also more important to do good, because it's a time that companies have a big role to play to help to a better society. So it's action speaks louder than words.
Yes, I would imagine that each company and each stakeholder needs to do their part as far as being able to achieve some of these goals are concerned. But Juvencio, let's talk now about India. You know, you've got a long association with India. You've been in India for 40 years. You've been sourcing from India, and now, of course, you're on the path of expanding your retail operations here. I know it's going to be an omni-channel approach for you in India, but when do we now start to see your new centers, Gurgaon, Noida, when do we start to see them come up?
Very good. First, I have to say, it's a long association with India, with IKEA, but also India is emotional for me. After living 6 years, some years ago in India, so I am an Indian ambassador by blood. First, I want to say that first we have delivered what we promised. I came some years ago and I said, we will invest 10,500 crores. We have invested. We said we will source at least 30% local sourcing. We have done it. We said we want to start right with the gender equality. We want to have 50% women, 50% men. It's 46%, so we need to improve that. So we are proud of that as well. So we can say, first, we have delivered our promise. Where we are now and where we want to go. Where we are now is first, IKEA love India. Second, Indian consumer love IKEA. So it's a good starting point. Secondly, it's a time also to grow. And this is what I find a sweet spot in between IKEA, consumers, and the economy. What do I mean by that? It's a time to grow. In order to grow, what has to happen? First, we have to develop IKEA retail. Secondly, we need to develop availability of certified raw material, because it's not only availability of raw material, certified raw material that can be plugging into global supply chain. Thirdly, it's a time to have international standards, because this international standard will help not only to increase the quality of the product in India, but also to plug into global supply chain and have India as a fantastic opportunity now to be a manufacturing hub for the entire world. So I think time-wise, it's a perfect time. At the same time, we are having a holistic approach. IKEA started, of course, with the sourcing setup, and we have doubled down. IKEA has doubled down the sourcing from India, but also we started with IKEA Retail. Inca Group has 3 businesses, IKEA Retail, Inca Center, and Inca Investment. So we are now investing in Gurgaon and Noida in 2 very big shopping centers, very big, that are coming in less than 2 years now. And at the same
Gurgaon by 2025?
Hopefully, in less than 2 years it will be.
And then Noida?
And then Noida. And then many more. But then at the same time, we have set a global business operation in Bangalore where we are exporting services, financial services, digital services, HR services as a hub for the whole big company. Also, IKEA Foundation is also partnering with the government and with many other NGOs. So it's the whole menu of IKEA, because people might see only IKEA blue and yellow stores, but it's the whole menu of IKEA that we are very excited to work together.
So let's unpack the whole menu of IKEA. You said 10,500 crores was the promised investment. You've got a tick mark on that. You talked about 30% local sourcing as the promise. There's been a tick mark on that as well. So what can we now expect? What does 10,500 now become as the future promise to India?
It's in the making. I know that we love to have headlines with the number. It's in the making. What we are doing now, we have said phase 1, phase 2 actually, because we started with the sourcing many years ago. Then phase 1 is the beginning. Phase 2 is the growth and the development. What does it mean? It's in the making because we want to see how can we combine the production possibilities, the sourcing possibilities with the retail growth. And then at the same time, we are now exploring how can we really go faster and deeper in the markets where we are in India. When we combine these two, then we can come with the right number. It's important to say that for us it's critical to secure that by talking with our suppliers, by talking with the industry, by talking with the government, by working together, we say what are the preconditions that are needed to really support the exports. Because if we don't build economy of scale, we are limiting our growth possibility. And this is exactly what has to happen in the coming months. It's in the making, but we are highly committed personally and the company to India.
A ballpark number, an approximate estimate?
It would be wrong that I say now. Let me
ask you the question a different way. The India business has seen a growth of over 70% in financial year 23, sales of over 1,000 crore rupees. Now, if what's the aspiration of growing this business over the next 5 years? And I would imagine that will link back to the number that you're going to put forward.
I like to say the double thing. We have doubled over the last year. We need to double again and double again and double again. You could say that from the retail point of view, we have been 5 years. Now we are thinking the next 100 years. And then how big is big? Is big. That's why the more we align the retail growth with the harmonized standard to secure export, this is the magic when the two things will work.
So this magic that you talk about, which is addressing the domestic demand as well as being able to scale up the export opportunity, what is getting in the way? What are the friction points that need to be addressed to really ensure that India becomes a larger supplier and is more integrated into your global supply chain? How many certified suppliers do you have as of today from India?
We have 65 suppliers now that are connecting with 5 lakhs of co-workers, of employees in the IKEA supply chain. So it's a big impact today. But first, let's start with the possibilities. I think, for example, the movement done in improving, in raising the standards, in raising the quality standard, I think is actually quite good. Because this will, from the policy development, this will allow really to secure that these standards are good for the Indian consumer, point number one. but it's also is a second language for export. So I see this as a very positive movement, so to speak. Now the important thing is that we go from that level of direction to implementability, to execution, because the important thing is not to have policy. The important thing is they are very successful. And that's why in the next phase, in order to really secure that implementation is right, when you connect, okay, what do our suppliers need? What do we need to scale this up? And then what is the right international standard? This is the critical step to secure. It's a time now. It's a time for India to really, it's a time for India.